Welcome to the Hidden Potential Podcast. I'm your host, Homer Hargrove, and today we're going to be talking about how I'm already writing my next book. I'm going to be talking about some practical ways to be able to help you to produce consistent content and how to best utilize your time. And we're going to talk about how to find content that's useful for others to be able to receive. Now, every week, but lately it's been every 2 weeks, we come out with a new podcast episode to be able to help you tap into your hidden potential. I do that by giving you practical and mental tools to be able to help you use in your leadership and organization. Let's go ahead and get started with the big thoughts that we have today. And that is, if you've been following me, you've seen that I'm announcing my next book, which is Forever and Ever, a book about marriage and relationships and building a resilient partnership. And in the last 6 months, this will be my third book to be released. Now, for some people that might not be a big deal, but for others on the outside, it might seem like 3 books already. How does that happen all within 1 year? I'm going to share how that has happened for me, how it can be relatable to you. And the first is understanding that being consistent in my work, being consistent in preparing content has been one of the biggest tools for me to be able to produce, say, 3 books in 6 months. And I want to emphasize that the key here is building consistency. For me, since becoming a church planter, a pastor since 2017, I've been very relentless at trying to find my niche, trying to find what works, what doesn't. I've had a lot of achievements and failures over the years. But the one thing that I feel like has helped me is this relentless consistency to where I will show up even if it hurts. And that importance on consistency is not just about showing up for other people or for ministry opportunities, for jobs or etc., but even showing up for the content that you're creating. Now, for me, I'm writing a book is obviously generating content, but for you, that type of showing up might look different. But it's not always about waiting for the motivation or, in my case, the inspiration to strike for me to be able to write something or put something down, but consistently showing up to that task regardless of how I feel that day. And whether that means writing a little bit or making a couple graphics, etc. It's about being consistent in organizing, researching, trying to get better. Now, consider this. With what I'm doing right now, it's been years of me learning how to do one thing after another. When it comes to even like our church, having to learn how church organization happens outside of just like the person-to-person ministry, but even about how to create a website. I did not know how to create a website when I started the church, and now I've created my own website. And I will say that I think my websites look a lot better than some of the other professional websites that are out there that people pay thousands of dollars to generate, while I've created my own. That has taken consistent research, practice, trial, and error. And the same goes for graphics. The same goes for making shirts. The same goes for writing with the intention of it being put in a book. And it's the consistency that helps build momentum and ensures that something is being prepared in the background. It's one thing to have say like a jump start to where you're really passionate for a month and then you're not really seeing any progress. You don't feel like you've gone anywhere, and so you just give up. But it's another thing to forecast yourself, okay, I'm going to be doing this for a year, 2 years, and being willing to commit to that consistency regardless of what you see. There's been times where I've looked at myself in third person and almost feel sorry for this dragging in the desert of trying to make something work. But then in the end, seeing this positive note, like take this podcast, for example. When I first started the podcast, it's not like I'm getting these crazy numbers of people just dying for the next episode, but being consistent at it for the first year, there's week after week after week, having guests on it, preparing content, and then putting it out. Going all the way into this year. when it comes to even like my speaking career and being a professional public speaker, I've relentlessly showed up for the opportunity to speak, regardless if I was paid for it or not, to practice the simple act of speaking, being consistently trying to get better at something just like speaking. And so again, it's what is happening in the background to get better. Again, I'm not trying to say that I'm the best possible speaker, but I have confidence I can kill if I need to. Like I can really go out there. Why? Because I consistently try to get better in the background. I'm consistently preparing content. I could, at the drop of a hat, I could go and share a message. If you told me in 10 seconds, I need you to go and share a message, our speaker canceled, I'll be able to go, not because I'm necessarily talented enough to just make something up on the spot, but because I've prepared consistently content that I know I could use for right now. And so, even with these 3 major books I've come out with this year, it's not, even for me, it's not that I've just decided to create this content out of the blue, but for these 3 books, Feed My Sheep, that 90-day devotional, Feed My Lambs, a kids curriculum, a Christian kids curriculum, and now Forever and Ever, a book on marriage and relationships. All of this content, I did not just create within the last 6 months. You're talking about years of me creating content, and then now strategically taking weeks and months to compile and adjust and reword and edit to where it meets this framework of a book. You're talking about hours and hours and hours over the years of consistently showing up to where now I'm forming it into the form of some of it in the form of these books. So you understanding that building consistency, creating a framework for you to understand how can I make what with this consistency, how can I funnel it into a next step, and then staying motivated. I think that knowing that to stay motivated, meaning that to remain consistent regardless of how you feel that day, believing that there's something valuable in the end. That there's a difference to be made at the end. That you're not just being consistent for no reason, but even though you can't see it right in front of you, of continuing anyway, believing, even in faith, that this will be useful or valuable in some way or another. And it also implies to be excellent with what you're doing right now. One last thing about being consistent. When it comes to even just like the sermons that I write, I started off writing sermons like with literally putting a title with 3 words. And then after some time, I started trying to make those 3 words have alliteration, and try to make it easier to remember. But now I write out a full manuscript of what I will say for the sermon message. And so, and when did I start doing that? I was doing that when only 9 people were showing up for my church service. You're talking about putting hours of work for right in front of me. Didn't seem like it necessarily needed it, but I really believed that I was practicing for something greater, practicing for something else. So you're talking about, again, years of practice to where now I feel like it's coming into fruition. But the key to all of it is being consistent in that work. For me, it's also being consistent and preparing content. Now, number 2 is blocking out my days. I was very critical at how I spent my days and how I spent my time. And learning time management is a skill to be learned. Okay, it's not something that's magical or that you're either good at it or you're not. You just have to understand that in order to best take hold of consistency, you cannot let your days just happen to you. You have to be able to manage your time well. And for me, what really helps is blocking out my time in the form of days, weeks, months, and years. So what I mean by that is short term is literally putting a block of time, like say for my day, on Mondays is like my social media and data entry, administration, kind of like at the desk days, to where if I wanted to, I wouldn't even have to do my hair that day. I'm not really putting on it's just like at the desk work. And of course that's me doing work from home. So I block out all my day to be kind of consistent in that flow. And then I block out time, like for the first hour, I'm going to do this. Or the first 2 hours, I'm going to do data entry. Or the first 3 hours, the last 2 hours of the day, I'm going to do social media. Whatever it is, in blocking out the time to where on my Tuesdays, that's like ministries days, or days where I am creating content, and in the evening I'm going to be going to a recovery center. Wednesdays is like a networking day. Fridays are a full church day, to where I'm creating all this content for the sermon that day, preparing and spiritually, physically, all that stuff for Friday. And I even plan days for like when I strategically try to make myself rest. Thursdays and Saturdays are like that day for me, to where I'm trying not to do any work. And it's so that I could be mentally sharp for the days that I'm ready to do work. Now, that's planning out my days. Now, going into the idea of a week, notice how I'm blocking off to where I'm trying to funnel everything that's going to happen for this is within the same theme of that day. For the weeks ahead, I will map out my month. This week, I'm going to work on this task or this priority, and everything is kind of driving towards that direction. And then it will follow through all the way throughout the month. Now, breaking out the months and years, I've already have blocked out in time, like let's say just mapping out my books. I blocked out premeditated, by this time I want this book to be done. By this time, by this month, I want to knock out this book. You know, I had Feed My Sheep in June. On my calendar, I had the Feed My Lambs curriculum set for August. You know, and now on my calendar next was the Forever and Ever book to be released in October. And I again, this is a lot of content that was already prepared and I was being consistent with, to where I believed I could have these knocked out where they're literally back to back, almost a month apart, to be able to have this content. But it's not just like, oh, you know what, let me just do it today. Let's see what happens. But this is premeditated because I blocked out these months. And now forward thinking to years. For me, 2 years ago, my whole focus was this year I want to focus on getting an online store and creating t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now, Feed My Sheep. Love this shirt. And that whole year I was learning how to build out an online store, how all of that process looks, how to create t-shirts, what t-shirts are good, what t-shirts aren't so good, and really learning everything. And that was my focus for that year. Last year, it was about focusing on creating the podcast, and everything I was doing is really going in that same vein of the podcast. And I had, if you look back through the episodes, I have like all these guest speakers. It's very organized. Everything's written out. While this year, my direction was putting out books and content, so where that's been my primary focus. And next year, I have a new goal, a different goal. And so again, I'm blocking out this time to where I have in my mind, in my heart, this whole year, I have this direction that I'm going towards. This whole month, this is what I'm focused on specifically towards that direction. And I'm guiding my days by my years. Y'all dig what I'm saying? And throughout that process, you got to just learn to adjust along the way. There's times where I recognize, my kid, I haven't played with my kids. I didn't get a chance to play with my kids today or yesterday. And so as much as I want to finish this last chapter, I'm going to stop what I'm doing and go play with my kids. You know, it's on my schedule, but I feel a little distant, so I'm going to go with them. Or maybe maybe it's not family, maybe you have something come up and there's an opportunity, and so I'm going to step away from my blocked out time to go for this opportunity, to be able to minister, speak, network, whatever it may be, and just learn that it's okay to adjust and flex within your schedule as you're trying to keep track along the way. Now, the last thing to talk about for me that helped me in this process was looking for where the needs are to fill. You know, I think that specifically when it comes to books, at the beginning stages, I wasn't really looking at what need I was going to fill. I was more so looking at what story I wanted to share. And I think that both can be good, but for me, I just consistently felt blocked at how this was, as far as like feeling passionate about, because I was more so doing it for myself. But once I shifted gears and started looking at how can this benefit somebody else, it totally revolutionized how I saw the content that I was creating. To where the first book that I wrote, Feed My Sheep, Feed My Sheep was originally the title I had for a leadership book. I wanted to write a leadership book, and I had already written several pages about leadership. But then I just felt like this shift where I really felt like there was this spiritual calling for early on believers that were ready to spiritually grow their faith. And I wanted to make it specifically in that format. And I just felt like everything shifted once I looked at the need I was trying to fill. How I wrote the book, the content that was in the book, it completely shifted. And the same goes for like the kids' curriculum. I really have a passion for volunteers at churches. And when I wrote Feed My Lambs curriculum, a 6-month curriculum for spiritual lessons for children, my heart for that was to make a super accessible and easy way for say like a volunteer at a church that is a kids director that is really likes kids, is good with kids, but struggles with making the lessons each week. And most lessons, most curriculums are like $500, hundreds of dollars, where the church might not have the budget for that. And I just wanted to make a really easy way for people like that to be able to have a tool to help them grow in their calling. It's something I'm so passionate about, being able to help equip someone like that in that role. And even if it's whether it's for them or for a mom that's trying to find ways to teach their kids biblical principles rather than just like, this is a story of Noah's Ark. That book is full of Christian principles, not just stories from the Bible. It's a great book. And now for this one, Forever and Ever, I really love relationships. I like helping people to feel matched with each other. I like that, not that I want to be Cupid, but I like being able to help people better their relationships. I like seeing people happy. I like seeing people thriving in their life. And what I've seen time and time again, when people's marriages get better, the rest of their lives get better. Their workplaces get better. Their families get better. Their kids get better. The church gets better when when marriages are strong and healthy. And that was my heart for the book. And not only that, I was having consistently people ask me and my wife for like premarital classes and marriage advice and et cetera, things like that, to where it just felt like the perfect need to fill when it came to utilizing this content that I've had over the years and putting it in the way that fits best, that really does fit. And when it comes to identifying those needs and those gaps, you got to focus on your service. How could this really benefit the person and feel like this win-win scenario, to where I'm not just here killing myself trying to serve everybody, but in a way to where this is a way that meets people's needs and feels good in the process. That's where you start building your career. That's when you start building your passion and your purpose, and it just starts growing. It's like the simple idea of being a minister. I would do what I'm doing right now for free. I love being a minister. It fulfills my soul, and I did it for free for years. But doing it for free caps me to only be able to do it so much. I have to still eat. I got to feed my family. But when you start learning how to focus on your service, you're able to strategically find ways to where you're not just trying to get like money hungry or get more money for X, Y, or Z, but you're realizing that if I focus on my service to others in the right way, then I'm able to structure this out to where I can actually serve more people by using the right feedback, by filling these needs well. And that leads this last idea on using feedback. You know, so much of what I'm doing now, and even what is in these books, are also recognizing the feedback that I've had from people over the years. It's not just me thinking this sounds good, but this is tested and tried, seeing what works and what doesn't, and lessons learned over years. And then especially observations from myself and fueling it into how can I best fill this next need in a way that is healthy, and I'm not just doing it to do it, but I'm truly filling a need. So all that being said, we talked about being consistent, we talked about time management and blocking out our days, weeks, months, and years, and we talked about seeing a need to fill and filling it with an authentic heart and purpose. Now, here are 3 takeaways. Number 1, start a content journal or folder. Start keeping a clear folder of where you put content. I think in our world today, I would really suggest it being electronic. I personally like writing in a journal better, But it's a lot harder to translate what I write in my journal to what I want in, like, say, a book. And so doing it electronically, even through Google Docs, for years I used just Apple Notes. And I love just being able to organize folder upon folder. I have folders upon folders, and then within them, I have extra folders of notes within that app. And it's just years and years of content to where I was storing to be able to use for later. It's not just I didn't just generate all this content this year. This is years of content that I've been storing, and now I'm finding use for it. So again, start that kind of folder or journal where you can share and prepare your content consistently. Also, number 2, for this feedback, block out your time. Start scheduling and writing. Start scheduling in times for you to plan out your weeks ahead, your days, your months. Put goals for your year, and be intentional about the time that you make to have progress feel achievable. Number 3, identify the needs to fill. Find out what that gap is that you want to fill when it comes to your ministry, your leadership. Even if you're just talking about a role with, maybe you're just thinking as a secular job. Everyone has a workplace to where there's problems within that workplace. And often the problems that we feel most passionate about, or the problems that we see the most, like they really need to change this. Imagine yourself as being the one to fill that need. One of the first early jobs I had when I was a lot younger was even just working as a bank teller. And a simple role there was that no one wanted to make the coffee. And so I became the guy that made the coffee in the morning. And as simple as it seems, it was filling those roles like that I felt like needed to happen, to where it made opportunities for me in bigger places. I became a youth pastor just because I saw a need to move chairs, and I would just always show up to move chairs, and it presented more opportunities by filling those gaps. So ask yourself, what is missing here, and what need can I meet with my abilities, with my perspective that can help fix or fill this need? All that being said, before we close, just like I've been talking about throughout this podcast, I am releasing my 3rd book of 2024, and it's called Forever and Ever, and it is a guide to help building a resilient partnership in marriage. And this book can be pre-ordered by going to my website, homerhargrove.com. You can find it there. But to pair with this book, I'm also releasing a virtual workshop that you're able to go through with the book. It's going to be a 4-month workshop, and it's $30 per person each month. And if you want to be a part of the workshop, you can also register online on my website and join the free Facebook group that is called Forever and Ever. If you need the invite link, all you have to do is DM me and I will send it to you. And we already had our first interest meeting last night. A lot of people are giving great feedback and are excited about this workshop. If you want to be a part, if you register for the workshop before October 1st, you will get your copy of Forever and Ever for free. It will come included with your workshop. After October 1st, it will be separate. So all that being said, I hope that this made a difference in your life. I hope that was edifying for your leadership. Until next time, have a great life. Well, there you have it. I hope that this episode was meaningful and edifying for your leadership and your growth within your ministry and organization. Could you do me a favor? Could you leave a rating and review for this podcast? It'd really help me out and help others be able to see this show in their feed. You can also visit homerhargrove.com to be able to learn more, connect, or become one of our supporters. Until next time, have a great life.